Hello, friend. Welcome to Shepherd My Heart. Have you ever felt like what once sustained you has suddenly disappeared? The brook dried up, and now what? In chapter 17 of 1 Kings, we find Elijah going through this situation. The land was in drought, and he was sent to a brook where he would be fed by ravens. And after a while, this brook dried up. What was he feeling at that time? What God had used to sustain him was no longer available. Elijah obeyed God, and yet the brook dried up. He had trusted God and seen him provide, but now that provision was gone. Did he feel abandoned, confused, or was he quietly waiting for the next instruction? Sometimes obedience leads us into a temporary drought or desert, but God is never out of options. We'll pick up in verse 18, and I'll be reading from the the ESV version. It says in verses 8 through 16, "Then the word of the Lord came to him, 'Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you.' So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, a woman was gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, 'Bring me a little water in a vessel, that I may drink.' And as she was going to bring it, he called to her and said, 'Bring me a morsel of bread in your hand.' And she said, 'As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. And now I am gathering a couple of sticks, that I may go in and prepare for myself and my son, that we may eat and die.' And Elijah said to her, 'Do not fear. Go and do as you have said, but first make me a little cake of it and bring it to me, and afterward make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth.' And she went and did as Elijah said. And she and he and her household ate for many days. The jar of flour was not spent, neither did the jug of oil become empty, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by Elijah." When God sent him to the widow, did he think that the widow would be wealthy? When he finds her and asks her for bread and water, she is about to run out what she has and is expecting to die. Elijah instructs her to make a cake for him and then for herself. This goes against how we often act. When we experience lack, our first instinct is to hoard what we have left for ourselves. But if she will put others first, Elijah tells her she will have no lack. She was preparing her last meal, not just for herself, but for her child. And then a stranger asked for her last bit of food. What kind of trust does it take to give your last, believing God will supply? Not only did God provide for Elijah, but he saw the widow's circumstances and provided for her. God didn't rain down flour and oil at once. He gave just enough for each day. Daily obedience led to daily provision. Maybe you feel your brook has dried up. Maybe you're down to your last handful of flour. God may be leading you to a place of daily dependence where trust must come before sight. Just as God cared for Elijah and the widow, he sees your need, and he is not done providing. The one thing I do want to emphasize here is that this widow did not take this upon herself to do this, but she acted in obedience to what Elijah told her through the Lord. And that is what God is looking for, is our obedience. It does not mean that if we just choose to give to somebody so that God will do something for us. It is about being obedient to what He places on our heart to do. And that takes relationship. It takes time being with God so that we know and understand His voice. And my prayer for you is that you would have the joy of knowing what it is to act in obedience and see God's supernatural provision. God be with you, and God bless you.